Ça va? Ça va? Okay. So I'll tell you a little bit tonight about what I call the bilingual revolution. And it's a very profound and peaceful revolution. It's also a very personal one, since well, this morning in Brooklyn, I dropped my daughter in kindergarten, French dual language program in Greenpoint, where I live. A program which we started 3 years ago, and I'm so happy that I'm not only preaching this everywhere I go, but I'm also doing it for my own family. She's 5, she's spending half of her day in English and the other half in French. It's a public school, and everyone is delighted about this. So you understand how passionate I can be about this topic, and I hope I can share some of that. I know you already have a lot of passion going around here, and a lot of support from the Houston public school system. This afternoon's meeting was, I think, very, very fruitful, and you guys are launching your own bilingual revolution, and I'm delighted for Texas. Now, I'll give you an overview very quickly of French dual language education in the United States, please. Of course, as was said earlier, French is no stranger to the United States, with 1.3 million Americans who speak French at home. And you've all heard about Louisiana. You might not have heard about Maine, but these are states which are historically French-speaking, and with a long tradition of French-speaking schools. Some of the schools were run by parishes and churches a few years ago, a few decades ago. Then in the 1960s, public school system took over and started offering French immersion because of the cultural and linguistic heritage in Louisiana, for instance, and Maine. Unfortunately for Maine, Maine did not have such a strong drive at the state level push to promoting French in public schools. And on the other hand, Louisiana had Code of Field in the 1960s, and Louisiana today has a number of public schools offering French immersion, 28 of them, serving 5,000 students to this day, and doing a lot for the economy of Louisiana. And I'll say that, I'll explain a little bit further. But if you look at the numbers, Spanish, of course, is everywhere in this country. Actually, Spanish, I think, is the second language. Officially, it should be. The United States should be a bilingual country, period, with English and Spanish. But then it is followed by Chinese, Tagalog, Vietnamese, and French. And that includes, according to the US Census, Patois and Cajun. If I can have the next slide. If you can see this map, it gives you a quick idea of where those French speakers reside. Some of them are in Texas. Okay, many of them are on the East Coast. But still, there are pockets of French speakers. And those are French speakers holding a US passport, American citizens. And this is the current network of bilingual schools, public, private, charter, doesn't matter. This is the two maps I wanted to show you. And if you go back one slide previous, this is the population, and then the school again. These are the schools, 200 schools. 134 schools in public system, and about 60 in the private independent school system. Altogether, 40,000 children Still, if you remember, 1.3 million francophones. I think, roughly speaking, 20% of these 1.3 are children. Anyone good at math? No? That's a lot of children that are not getting French bilingual education. And I think they should be getting French bilingual education. Just for that, just for their heritage, just to transmit the language of their parents, their grandparents, and continue speaking French at home. But of course, that does not even include all the non-French speakers who are very, very interested in learning a second language, mastering a second language, particularly for young children at a very young age. Now, often when I talk in meetings, and this was not the case this afternoon, I didn't have to convince anybody, why French? Why not Spanish? Why not Mandarin? The guys this afternoon knew everything already. They were convinced. Now, French means business in this country. And you all know that. For the number of companies in this country, the billions of dollars that are each year being exchanged between the two countries, not only with France, but with the big neighbor in the north. Canada alone is the first primary consumer of US exports. And just this economical argument is enough to make French a valuable case to consider for public school education. The next slide comes from Bloomberg, very serious magazine. Bloomberg decided to look at various items, such as the number of countries where the language is spoken. That's the first column. Then the number of speakers in millions, second column. Population in countries where the language is official. And the GDP in billions. GDP growth between 2011 and 2016. Exports and imports as percentage of GDP. School life expectancy, etc., etc., etc. And can you see the first column? Well, the highest score is Mandarin, Chinese. But then second comes French, and Arabic, Spanish, Russian, Portuguese, Japanese. I think all these languages should be made available in the public school system in this country, particularly in immersion programs or dual language programs, because it makes good sense, good business sense for this country to develop a citizenry that can master those languages in particular. I will skip those ones. Is French the language of the arts? You tell me. You agree or not? Is French the language of international relations? Well, think of the UN. Think of the fact that French is spoken in 55 countries. I think the most striking number, it came out in a research that was done recently by the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie. 700 million people in the world will speak French, or will be French speakers by 2050. 700 million. And where do they all come from? Where will they all come from? Wild guess. 80% of the 700 million people will come from Africa. The fastest growing economy, or the economy of tomorrow, for many investors, the place to be right now. So, these are basic things that I usually tell people when they ask me that question, but just looking at the history of France and the United States, for me, speaks Italian. French is part of the US heritage, period. It is. And it's the best testament to this cultural heritage is the fact that 9 million Americans, 9 million US citizens claim French ancestry during the various census. That says quite a lot. It says also quite a lot about the historical bonds between France and the United States, which have proven to be very robust, even in during today's world crisis. France and the US are still demonstrating that these bonds are solid. French also has a very privileged position in the United States, in schools in particular, because it is a language that is studied by 1.2 million students. And it is the second language after Spanish, most spoken. What I'm very interested in with this bilingual education revolution is mostly what French-speaking families want. And I think there's been a shift in the way immigrants are considering their home language and their home culture. It used to be a time when people would just assimilate to American culture. And even they will stop teaching or talking their home language to their children. There are numerous stories, dramatic stories of families with just erased completely their home culture and home language in the family. I think that has changed. There's a new generation. There's a new desire to maintain and preserve the language of the family, the language of the grandparents, and that gives families a strong, how should I say, a strong urge to do whatever they can, whatever is in their power, to convince and advocate for a greater, larger opportunity to raise their children bilingually. It is true with French-speaking families. It is true for other language and other language groups. And interestingly enough, non-French-speaking families, Anglophone families, more and more are understanding the benefits and the advantages of becoming bilingual, of raising children bilingually. And this is a fairly recent trend. And you see a lot of preschools, a lot of nannies speaking Mandarin, such or such language, that are now being hired by people who can afford it. But I think these are two important elements which will explain why we need a bilingual revolution in this country. The first point, basic one, because we need more schools. Period. I mentioned 200 schools offering French and English, but basically it's not enough. 240,000 French-speaking children in the US right now. Only 40,000 are benefiting from one form of bilingual education in French or another. Also, I have noticed that when those programs are well done, when they're in public schools in particular, they have this power, this tendency to elevate the whole school, to elevate the whole community where the school is, to improve and empower the communities in which the school is. And I think that's a good reason to continue this kind of work. Of course, I think that children that have two languages when they're very young will master more than just languages. They'll master many other things. It is more and more recognized that the cognitive advantages on the brain of the children that are raised bilingually will set them with extra powers for the rest of their life. They'll become very good mathematicians, some, or excellent musicians, or great diplomats, let's hope. But this is a fact that is worth considering in the quest for the new bilingual revolution. Another aspect of that bilingual revolution is you, parents. Parents can make a difference. You can make a difference in creating and offering this quality education to as many children as possible. And I'm saying this in particular thinking about the public school system. What can be done in one school can be done in 100 schools. 5 years, 10 years from now. One example comes to mind, Utah. I was in Utah, Salt Lake City, 2 weeks ago. And Utah, within the last 5 years, has opened 132 dual language programs in its public schools. In Spanish, in French, in Mandarin, in Portuguese, and next year in German. Now, I don't know much about Utah, but I know there are no francophones there. But still, they believe in something. They believe in this internationalization of public education, in creating this citizenry of tomorrow with a global mindset. And I think that's another good reason to bear in mind. Finally, my last point, if you could come back. I think a call for action is needed, and that parents are taking the flight and are running with it. They will make that revolution possible. Everywhere I go, always in the room, there's always 1, 2, 3 minds that are saying, I want this for my child. I want this for my school. And this is very important. This is something else that was produced by the Huffington Post. And it's great that those newspapers are coming more and more with those types of studies. Again, there's a connection. I told you about French means business. Well, bilingualism means business too. And this shows that bilingual students not only are better in math, critical reading, writing, but they also make more money. So we're in the United States of America. I think this is always circling back to dollars. And if you combine this dollar aspect of bilingual education to the dollar aspect of learning an international language, I think you're giving your children the best tools to succeed in life in the next few years. Please, have the next one. There are a number of outcomes and advantages in public schools in particular. And I won't go through the whole list, but I think a good dual language program has the potential to solve many of current issues public schools face, in particular reducing dropout rates and also narrowing the achievement gap. And I have now a few examples in mind that are pushing me towards believing this. In Harlem, where we opened 3 programs, children from 80 different countries recently arrived to the United States with some form of education or not, have signed up for those bilingual programs, French, English. And when it comes to the standardized test, the 3rd grade, guess what? They are at the level or above in math and English language arts. And I think a larger study should be conducted on this particular part. Is a good bilingual program capable of transforming a failing child or a failing school into success? Yes. So I wanted to show you a few of the statistics that we gathered through our survey. We surveyed about 134 schools. Guess what? Louisiana, 28 schools offer dual language, French dual language program. They're way ahead. Utah, 14. In the last 5 years, Utah has opened 14 French dual language programs. New York, in the last 7 years, 11. Where will Texas be 5 years from now? How many schools in Texas will offer French within the next 5 years? Anybody has an idea? No, a guess? But I tell you, I think, starting here, I have 5. I'll be in Austin tomorrow. I'll be in San Antonio, and I'm sure my colleagues will continue this. Dallas, Baltimore. I can tell you within 5 years, you can create as many French dual language programs than the leading states. This is right now the evolution of French dual language programs in the United States. It's going up, 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 up. Next slide. I asked some parents, I asked some schools what they thought about parent involvement in development of French dual language program in their school. And here are the answers, and these are principals answer those questions. Most of the times, parents in the French program seem to be very involved. Parents have supported the programs with some kind of contribution, whether it's volunteering their time, giving an in-kind donation, giving money, raising funds, and being strong advocates for the French program. And this is very important. You cannot just expect the school to build a program for you and it will happen by magic. No, parents in all the programs that we surveyed were in the school every day, supporting the school with every energy and every support they had. Some of them would travel a long distance just to get a seat in the French program. Some applied just to get in the French program. In some areas, families moved just to be in the zone of the school. That's very true for New York, where I come from. You can only access that school if you live in the few blocks that surround it. But in other areas, it's not the case. In Louisiana, there's a law that was just passed, and it is phenomenal. Today, if a group of families get together and request service in French or a French bilingual program, by law, a school system has to create a program. Just if a few French-speaking families in Louisiana ask, by law, they will get it. And this is the kinds of things that are showing that this is an interesting time that we live in. Other things to bear in mind in your adventures, in your quest for bilingual, French-English bilingual programs. There seems to be a problem. It seems those programs seem to be very popular in the preschool, primary, and even middle school. But somehow there seems to be a cut, a drop, when high school comes. And that, I think it's because we haven't found the right solution here. And maybe you will find the right solution here. Most families are very excited in the primary years and start winding down in middle school. And then in high school, it's no longer a consideration, or it's no longer such an important point. I think these are questions more than answers that I'm bringing you. When you are yourself launching your programs, perhaps it is good to project ahead and have a vision all the way to the end. What will the finality of these programs be like? Whether it's advanced placement exams, international baccalaureate, French baccalaureate, or so forth. Yeah. Other things that have come up. performance of children in your school? Have children performing better than other bilingual programs in your school? That was not a clear answer, but do students perform better on state or standardized tests? And it's quite important in today's world where testing is everywhere. It is clear and clearer that bilingual, French-English bilingual students are testing better in English, in math. And I think that's something that will convince many dubious school authorities today. The roadmap that I want to leave you with is something that New York City parents developed 7 years ago. It's something that perhaps will make sense here in Houston, tomorrow in Austin. It is being used by other parents elsewhere. It is also being translated in various languages, Italian, Japanese, German. It's a recipe that has worked well in large urban centers. Let me guide you through this. The idea is it's a bottom-up approach. And here, we are fortunate enough to have also the possibility to work with a top-down approach. Perhaps meeting both trends will create a successful initiative. But this idea comes from New York City, where whatever you want to get, you have to fight for it. And if you want something, you need to get parents organized. And that's the only way to get anything. And this roadmap has 3 steps. Create a base of interested families, and I think that's the work that you guys have been doing. Lobbying and targeting specific schools, and providing constant support to the principal, and I'll go into details. So parents 7 years ago figured out that if you had 30 children entering kindergarten, let's say next September, and because New York has a 50-50 model, whereby not only half the time is spent in one language, the other half in the other, but also 50% of your kids are francophones and the other 15 are non-francophones, so that the kids can communicate throughout the day. So if you're able to find those children in your neighborhood or in your larger neighborhood, organize meetings, create a list with zip codes, the age of the children, then you can move towards targeting the school that you want. Some of the parents, to identify those families and those children, canvassed the neighborhood, went to cultural centers, local businesses, religious institutions in particular. Think about mosques, think about churches, think about all sorts of communities. In Brooklyn, again, if you want to talk to the Haitian community, you need to spend your Saturdays in the churches. And that's where the service is conducted in French. If you want to talk to Senegalese, particularly Muslim Senegalese, you go to the mosque on Fridays, and so forth. So think again, where are the francophones, and where are the families interested in raising their children bilingually? Yeah. Then the location of the school. Either the district will help you, or, again with the New York spirit, no one will help you. You'll have to help yourself and find the right school and find the right key players. And in particular with New York, you need to convince the principal. And you need to put yourself in the principal's shoes in order to make it happen. Of course, you need to build a rationale, and show the benefits, not just the benefits for the children, but also the benefits for the principal. The principal will leave its mark if the program is successful, if the students are scoring very well. There is a lot of ways to interest the principal. Finally, once you are able to convince the principal, you have to keep promoting the program. We sometimes find hundreds of volunteers and parents interested, but on D-Day, when school starts, then sometimes you don't have the families there in front of you. They've chosen other options. That has happened. So it's something that needs to be maintained. During the launch, you need to have the children in the classroom. You need to have the teacher in the classroom. Hiring those teachers is very difficult. Not only you need to find good teachers, certified teachers, teachers who have visas, green cards. That's when a school system will not. But if the school system will not provide a visa, then you need to find people who have the right papers. That makes it very difficult to find the right teacher and to have the teacher ready when it comes September. But also supporting the principal, always being helping the principal, not only through fundraising, grant writing, buying books from friends from Quebec, helping with hiring teachers. Most of the times principals don't speak French, therefore parents help with interviewing teachers, and then parents help other parents, particularly non-French speaking parents, with homeworks and buddy systems. So again, always bear in mind what school authorities want. Put yourself in the shoes of school authorities. What are the benefits for the schools? It's not just about the beauty of bilingualism, but it has an impact not only on accessing additional funding, on activating very dynamic parents, on creating new opportunities for enrichment for students, on raising scores of tests. So all of these arguments will make a school stand out in town. Yeah. Finally, just to finish with New York and my presentation, this is what we've done since 2007. 11 public schools, mostly in Harlem and the Upper West Side and in Brooklyn. We're pushing for new programs in the Bronx. We're pushing for programs in Queens and trying to raise $2 million to open 40 more programs in the next 5 years. Because one thing is bugging us. Out of 120,000 francophones in New York, 22,000 children, only 2,000 are served or are getting a French bilingual education. So we really want to help the 20,000 other children who are not getting this kind of education. And we believe in public education to solve that. Take home, being bilingual is the new norm. Monolingualism is the illiteracy of the 21st century. Being bilingual is not a taboo, used to be, not anymore. And it is not the privilege of a happy few. Bilingualism is rich, very rich in cognitive advancements. It's good for the brain. It even stops the Alzheimer disease. So, it is true. Recent studies have demonstrated that in older adults, those who were raised bilingually have managed to slow down the onset of Alzheimer. And that speaks volumes. Early language acquisition through immersion or dual language programs offers new ways to master an international language or several international languages. French means business, and I'll repeat, French means business, really. Finally, empowered parents like yourself can make a difference. You can make a difference. Get together, get organized with this group, and believe it or not, within 5 years, 10 schools, 15 schools, we don't know. That's the bilingual revolution that I wanted to talk to you about. We have started it. It's for our common good. Last slide. Thank you.